So you burned it down. You did the work. You named the armor. You started releasing the identities that no longer fit. You gave yourself permission to become truer and freer and more authentically you.
And then you went home.
And then the people there,
Your partner or your kids, your best friends, your family.
well, they still expect the old version of you.
And nobody warned you about that part.
Nobody warns you about the personal evolution is also a relational disruption.
Yeah, that when you change,
Everything around you has to change too.
and not everyone's ready for that.
So, welcome to episode 5 of Midlife Interrupted and Unfiltered. I'm Anne.
I'm Melissa, and today we're talking about what nobody tells you happened after the burning.
And what happens to your relationships when you change.
Buckle up. This one is real.
Okay, so let's start by naming something that I think a lot of women feel but have never had a language for.
Please.
Okay, so you start doing the work, the inner work, the identity work, the burning down of what no longer fits you, and you start to notice something is shifting in how you show up. You're a little more direct, a little less apologetic, you're taking up more space, and you're saying no to things that you would always say yes to automatically.
You're really becoming more of yourself.
And it feels good. It feels good to you. It feels right. And then what happens?
The reactions from others start.
Yep. And they're not always what you expected.
Nope. Some people will, of course, light up when they see it. They'll say, yes, good job. This is you. I've been waiting for this version of you.
And some people
Pull back, get quiet, get uncomfortable, maybe even a little hostile or argumentative.
and when you're standing there thinking, well, wait, I'm becoming better. I'm liking who I am. I'm loving this hidden version of myself that's emerging. And I'm doing the work to become better. Why is this causing problems?
Yep. And the answer to that question is one of the most important things we'll talk about today.
Because the answer is that it's not that you're doing something wrong.
No, not at all. The answer is that personal evolution is inherently relational, right? You can't change in a vacuum. And those people in your life have a relationship, not just with you, but of the version of you that they've always known. And that version, when it starts to shift,
Well, the relationship has to shift too. And I just thought of something, the phrase, it's not you, it's me. Well, in this situation, it's like, it's not me, it's you. It's the problem.
there you go, everyone. You hear that? That's what you tell people. It's now. Yeah.
So
All right. Anyway.
the relationship has to shift too.
Right. And not everyone's ready for that shift, right? Not everyone's capable of change. And if we're being completely honest, not everyone's going to want that new version of you.
And the last one's hard when others don't actually want it.
Yeah, really hard. And we're going to talk about that directly because women deserve the truth about this. And we're not going to soften, we're not going to be diplomatic, and we're not going to go, oh, everyone means well version.
This is the unfiltered version.
Always the unfiltered version. Okay, so let's talk about what actually happens. Let's map out this relationship ecosystem when you go through a significant personal evolution, because it's not random and there are patterns. And of course, naming the patterns help.
So let's walk through that.
So the first pattern, and I see this a lot, is around expansion and how people respond to your expansion. And these are the people in your life who, expand to meet you, and they see your evolution and they respond with genuine excitement and support. And maybe they were even waiting for this and sensed that the real you was underneath the performance facade. And maybe they're relieved or delighted that they get to see that she finally shows up.
And those are your people.
Absolutely your people. And in midlife reinvention, finding out who those people are is one of the most unexpected gifts of your life, because this response reveals who's genuinely invested in you and not the role that you play or the function you serve them in their lives.
So the first pattern is the expansion response that is a positive one.
Right.
The second pattern is what now?
Around adjustment and responding with adjustment. So these people love you, right? They want good things for you, but maybe your change is disorienting them, right? They need time, they need information, they need reassurance that the relationship is still safe, even though you're different.
And it's not coming from a malicious or evil intent.
Not at all. It's human, right? Change in a close relationship is genuinely destabilizing, even if it's positive. Think about it. If your partner suddenly starts setting new boundaries or showing up differently or wanting different things, even if those things are all healthy, your nervous system feels it, it registers it, and something's changed. And you have to ask, is this safe?
And that adjustment response usually just needs time and communication.
Yep. And patience. These relationships can absolutely evolve with you. They just need a little more support with it.
So you have the expansion response, which is a great thing, the adjustment response that may take more work, but it's not a bad thing by any stretch. And then you have what's the third one?
This is where you find some resistance, right? This is the one that hurts. These are people who actively, whether it's conscious or unconscious, but they resist your evolution. Well, whether subtly or not subtly, they work to pull you back into the version that they're comfortable with that serves them.
So let's think about what that actually might look like, because I think it can be subtle enough that maybe many women miss it.
Absolutely. It can be incredibly subtle, right? It might look like commenting on, oh, you've changed, but that's not a compliment. Or maybe they roll your eyes at your new interests or priorities. Or maybe they say, I miss the old you, right? Or make a snarky little comment that implies the new you is a problem. Maybe they make a joke that undercuts your growth or calls you a name. Expressing concern about your decisions in a way that isn't necessarily kind and shows their discomfort.
And sometimes it might not be subtle at all. Like sometimes it would be a direct pushback, argumentative or accusatory. You're not the person I thought you were. You're not the person I was friends with. You're not the person that I married. You're becoming selfish. I don't know who you are anymore. Statements that frame your healthy evolution is a personal betrayal, which, like, as a lawyer who deals in accusations, is deeply unfair.
Oh my gosh, deeply and unfair, but deeply common, right? And let's talk about why. Like, why does this happen? Like, why do people do this? Because when we understand that, it makes it a little bit, I don't want to say easy, but a little bit more comfortable navigating this without taking it personally.
So let's talk about why it does happen.
So, personally, our growth, your growth out there, uh, unintentionally, it can hold up a mirror to the people around you, right? So, when you start setting boundaries, those people who benefited from maybe your lack of boundaries, they start to feel the loss, right? They start wondering, what the heck is wrong with her? Is she selfish? Or when you start pursuing maybe your own dreams, the people who relied on your deferring them, maybe they feel unsettled because you're not always available to them. Maybe when you stop performing and start being real and direct and sharing your mind and taking up space, the people who preferred the performance and more reserved person, maybe they feel exposed.
So your evolution asks something of them that they might not be ready to give.
Yep. And rather than doing their own work, right, which is hard and scary, it's easier to try to blame it on you, push it back in the box.
And then the fourth pattern is what?
Well, this one is the exit response, right? So some relationships are not going to make it. And that's sad, but they just can't survive the gap. So it's not because anyone's a villain out there. It's not because the love wasn't real. It's just simply because it was built on a version of you that no longer exists. And with that foundation not there anymore, there's nothing to build on.
And so those are the losses that hurt the most. And those are the ones that are most confusing to grieve because you didn't lose the person to a death or betrayal or some dramatic fallout. You lost them to your own growth, which was a good thing, your own growth. And there's this very specific kind of grief attached to that.
Right. And so we're going to spend some time on that grief today.
So let's talk about some stuff that might be uncomfortable.
We always do.
Well, I think you make me, but anyway.
You start.
Okay, so let's talk about like the topic of who benefits from your smallness. So in my work, in 25 years of representing people, all individuals who had some type of situation where they were wronged, either emotionally and or physically, I've learned that when you want to understand any dynamic, you have to ask the question of who benefits and who was harmed.
So are you saying who benefits, right, from things staying the way they are?
Yeah. And at what detriment to somebody else, maybe, right? And so I want to apply that question to relationships in women's lives, especially, specifically, who benefits from your smallness?
I think, Anne, that question is going to land hard on some people.
And it should, but I think it's really important to consider.
Can you ask it again?
So, who in your life benefits from you staying small? Who benefits from you not taking up space? Who benefits when you continue to defer your dreams or suppress your needs and prioritize everybody else's comfort and needs over your own growth?
And here's the thing. The answer is often people is often people who you genuinely love, right? They love you back. It's not always the villain.
Often it's just a system, like relational dynamic that developed over years where your smallness became someone else's comfort and where your accommodation became someone else's ease and where your silence became somebody else's peace.
And nobody designed it maliciously. It just evolved. So through the years of small negotiations or adjustments and compromises, until this dynamic that you had of making yourself smaller out of a habit goes away.
And so everyone in the dynamic got used to it and got used to that person making themselves smaller.
And when you change that, right, you start taking up the space you deserve. The person who benefited from that is it's a loss. They lose something they had or that they maybe relied on, or maybe it made them look better. And their resistance to your growth makes complete sense from inside their experience.
Even if it's completely unacceptable.
Right. And both things can be true, right? I understand, why you're resisting my growth, and your resistance is not something I'm willing to let determine the trajectory of my life and my decisions.
So is there a way for us to get more specific on this? Because I think this is where women can get lost in this abstract notion.
Of course.
So the partner who benefits from you not having a career ambition because it meant you were always available for them. That's an example.
Right. That's one. Another one might be a friend group that benefits from you being the one who always plans things or who never needs anything because it means they've never had to show up for you.
Or that family system that benefits from you being the peacekeeper because it means they don't have to deal with conflicts or even their own conflicts.
Right. Or we'll go into the workplace that might benefit from you never negotiating your salary because it means they pay you less than what you're actually worth.
And the children, I say this as a very proud and loving mother, who benefit from you having no identity outside of motherhood because it means you're always fully available to them.
None of these people are bad.
No, not at all. They're all people in systems that happen to work in their favor. And when the system changes, they feel it and they might actually oppose it.
But here's what I want everyone listening to hear. The fact that someone benefits from your smallness is not a reason to stay small.
Not a reason at all. And it's not the love that you have for them that's changing. It's not the history you share that's changing. Not the guilt of disrupting a system that's worked for everyone except the person who mattered most, which was you.
Yes, you, and you still do, and your growth isn't a betrayal of the people you love. Remember that.
Rather, it's an invitation for that relationship to grow itself and become more honest
More reciprocal, maybe more worthy of the people in it.
and more real. And those relationships can definitely rise to that invitation.
Yep. And those are worth keeping. Time to get personal.
Oh, geez. All right. So we're going to get personal.
We always do. Okay.
So, what happened in your relationships when you started changing? Like when you launched the human group and you started showing up differently? Was there any relational fallout from that?
I think there were some when you work a place so long and you're so close to your colleagues because you spend so much time at work, even if they're not physically in the same location, you get very close. And so there were definitely friendships that did not continue or survive, right? And I want to be honest because I think we tend to talk about friendship loss in very clean terms, right? Someone was toxic or someone was a bad friend, or it's actually really much messier. It's not as messy as that.
All right. Speak the truth, Melissa. Tell them.
So, I mean, I had friendships that were built on the version of me in my work, the corporate friend, right? Maybe the one at work that was good to kind of call or vent to, right? Save the psychologically safe space. Or maybe I was the neighbor or the mom friend that was there, or the woman who seemed to have a certain kind of stability and predictability and professional identity that felt comfortable. But when I stepped out of that identity and I became my own entrepreneur and my managing my own business, a business that is branded of me, right? The counselor, the coach, the woman that was doing her own inner work and with others, some of those friendships just couldn't find their footing or I guess common ground. We just didn't have a common ground anymore. But I was okay. And that was okay because I was more at peace with what I was doing and the fact that, some of my colleagues were ramping up their careers and or like, working toward retirement in some way. And I was just starting over.
So that common ground had shifted.
Yeah. And I want to be careful not to make, it sound like there's a villain. There's no villain here. And it's just sometimes you grow in different directions. And that is generally sad, but it's right. Oftentimes it's right.
And I also just want to say when that ground shifts, there's also no right and wrong. Like it's not wrong that colleagues chose to stay on their career
Mm-hmm.
trajectory when you decided to become an entrepreneur. So we're not saying that there's a right or wrong in choices you make. It's just
Mm-hmm.
being authentic and true to what you really desire and want.
Right. To your purpose. And I think, again, nothing was malicious or villain or anything. It was just, you just grow apart. Okay. And now your turn.
I think things in some friendships changed when I started like releasing the armor, and which we talked about in episode 4. I think I noticed changes in some of my close relationships.
Can you give an example of what you noticed?
I think like people didn't know what to do with like a toned down or softer version of me, like that I had been tough in my reputation in my professional life and often like being the strong one in my personal life too, and always kind of just taking charge and the one who handles things and schedules the lunch dates and get-togethers. The one kind of like you said when you were saying being the one who shows up like everything's always perfect, the one who doesn't need anything and shows up for everybody else and requires very little in return. Um, I saw that shift in friendships when I wasn't willing to do that anymore.
So it was like you let down this armor as your identity and then,
Yeah, and actually needed like reciprocal friendships, of, hey, I need something, or hey, can you ask me about my family this time? Oh, can you ask me what's going on in my career this time? As opposed to like often feeling like I was being talked at and fine with it because I was helping people through their issues and their process without a single question over the entire lunch date asked about what was going on with me. And now I feel like now that the armor's down, I really have no tolerance for that at all because it's probably my fault because it essentially like trained
yes.
our friendship in a certain way for so long that I did train them. And like, it's kind of hard to admit that the dynamic wasn't imposed on me. I was a participant in building that dynamic. And then undoing it required me to be patient with people who, quite honestly, may be genuinely confused about like this more open, softer version of me who, like, hey, can you ask me how my day
Mhm.
was?
So, who responded well to that?
Well, you definitely did.
Oh, thanks.
Well, you always respond well to me, but I mean, I don't know, like, and here I am kind of being vulnerable and emotional. So,
Well, it's about time.
well, and there were many people who like have responded really well to just a more open version of me, um, more real, more reciprocal, and more nourishing.
And what about the ones that couldn't expand?
You know what? Some of them I think are still adjusting, but I've released my grip and I hold on much more loosely than I used to. And I'm totally at peace with that because the alternative is going back to the armor and being the one who like is always reaching out and being that person that everybody needs to show up when it's just exhausting. And quite honestly, it's not something I am willing to do anymore.
That's the whole thing right there.
And I think there's some sense of calm and peace in choosing your own growth in your own comfort over staying small in the comfort of others, even when it might cost you something.
Yep. So let's just thank you for that. Let's time to shift gears. Keep going here. The relationships that let's talk a little bit about what survives and what doesn't, right? So this is practical reality because I know there are women listening right now who are in the middle of a relationship that's struggling under the weight of their evolution and they need some real guidance.
No platitudes, like serious, real guidance.
Right. So let's talk about the relationships that actually can survive your reinvention and then let's talk about the ones that can't.
So let's figure out, how do you know which is which? Like, who are the individuals or the relationships who can survive the reinvention, and then who are the ones in the relationships that can't?
Well, they're signs, right? And I'll name them really clearly. The relationship that can survive and evolve with you share some qualities, right? I'd say number one, there's a genuine goodwill on both sides. That other person, even if they're struggling with your changes, they fundamentally want good things for you and care about you and your family. The resistance may come out of fear of adjustment or, adjusting, but not on a desire to hold you back.
And I think there's a difference between somebody who looks you and is scared about like this potential change or shift, and then someone who loves the version of you that serves them.
Yep, it's a crucial difference, right? But there's also another sign, and the second one is that there's a willingness to have honest conversations, right? Meaningful, honest conversations. So the relationship can hold this discomfort of real dialogue. Even if they're hard, they're possible and they're safe and they're open.
You can say the real thing and not have it destroy the relationship.
Exactly. And, thirdly, there's this history of reciprocity, right? The relationship has at some point and in some form been genuinely mutual, right? There's this foundation there. And even in the current dynamic, it might need some recalibration.
But it'll still survive. So let's talk about those relationships that cannot survive, or let's say are very likely not to survive.
Right. Well, again, the signs are clear. And the first is that these relationships only function when you're smaller than you are, right? When you show up as your full self, direct, boundaried, honest, taking up space, the relationship breaks down every time.
That's important information.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Very. And the other thing, secondly, your growth is consistently framed as a problem or maybe a comedy, right? Not once, not for a moment of fear, but consistently, repeatedly as a pattern that your ambition is selfish or your boundaries are cold or your authenticity is difficult, or you're just, running after the wrong things. If this is the recurring story, that story is not yours.
It's about what you represent to that person. And going back to what I said earlier, it's not you, it's seriously them.
Right. Absolutely. And the third thing, and this one is the hardest to admit, is you feel like you almost have to choose between the relationship and your own growth, like regularly as a pattern, not in one hard session, but as the ongoing condition of that relationship.
And there's no true and real relationship that should require you to choose between you loving them and you loving and becoming yourself.
Right. Love that's contingent on your smallness. Well, let's just say that's not love. And it's not friendship, and it's convenience, and you deserve the real thing and for people to lift you up.
Absolutely.
So how do we bring people with us when they're willing? So, before we get to the action items and like we always do, let's just spend a few minutes on this piece because it's really important. And we don't want to make this episode sound like change and watch your relationships burn, because that's not at all what is, always going to happen.
And we already had an episode calling Burning It Down. So we do not want to have that happen here, but we don't need two of those. So let's talk this through.
Right. So how to bring people with you through your evolution when they're willing, because many of them are, and they just need guidance on how.
So how do you bring a willing partner, a friend, or a family member along with you on this reinvention journey?
You share it with them, right? Name what's happening. Don't make people guess. Have the conversation. Hey, Anne, I'm going through a significant personal awakening, right? I'm changing in some new ways and doing some things that matter to me. And I really want our relationship to be part of that evolution. I don't want it to be a casualty of it.
Let's be real here. I like to speak the truth. Most people have never had that conversation with somebody they love.
Most people try to just change quietly, right? And then wonder why people feel so blindsided or destabilized. So I'm saying if you name it and put it on the table and have those conversations, then you give the people who love you a chance to actually show up for you.
And I think in all fairness, that's the right thing to do, right? I mean, justice and fairness. One of my battle cries. So I guess don't blindside them, right? Have that conversation. So what else?
Maybe give them a role, right? People feel less threatened by change if they have a place in your new story. Hey, Anne, I'm building something new in my business and I want your support. I've done this inner work and I need you to be patient with me because I'm becoming more of myself, but I want you to know what that is.
So basically invite them in and ask for their support if they're willing to give it.
Right. And don't just move along without them, right? I mean, rather than protecting them or, doing it all on your own, which backfires, bring them inside. Let them be a part of it.
Okay, let's keep going with the bringing people with you.
Okay.
Right.
So we all have to be patient, right? With ourselves and with others around us in this adjustment. So even the most willing, loving, or supportive people might need some time to recalibrate to this new version of you. So don't interpret every stumble as a resistance, and don't read every awkward moment as a sign that the relationship can't survive.
So essentially give people grace and have some patience.
The same grace you'd want given to you as you figure out who you're becoming. Right. So next, let's go to a couple more. You need to get support outside the relationship. And this one's important. And this is what we talked to before, whether it's your partner, your friends, your family, a therapist, a coach. You just cannot do this alone. And you cannot rely on, let's say, maybe just your partner. You have to bring other people in that maybe aren't as close, because these people are too close. So ask for help and get some input.
So basically, you need people who are not in your close social ecosystem.
Exactly. And that's what I meant by like therapist, coach, community like this, right? There are women out there that maybe at some point we will all come together in a retreat and they will meet and they will realize we are like soul people, soul friends, because we have a similar experience. So these women out there are going through the same thing, many people that are listening. And these people can hold you accountable without being like destabilized by you, right? Or flustered because of your change.
And let me just say, how lucky am I that I have you in my social ecosystem and a coach and therapist. So what's the final one?
Well, just know when you really need professional help, and this is more around like when it's really trying, like couples therapy or individual therapy or even a mediator, and let they divorce. There's really no shame in bringing support in with relational adjustments or changes, because sometimes it is more than two people can navigate alone. It's actually one of the bravest things you can do to get help, and the best thing you can do for a relationship if you want to keep it.
Okay. And just real quick, I just got to give a shout out to our spouses, because I have to say they are like so supportive of us doing this. And they've been so supportive of every zany idea that we've come up with over multiple years in our friendship. So,
Oh, that's true. And a leader that I worked under years ago was really good about this. And I remember her saying, I could not be where I am today without a partner that supports me. And uh, uh, absolutely.
absolutely. My husband's always been my biggest cheerleader for sure. So, going back to, I just wanted to address that when we're talking about divorce and therapy. I don't want our spouses to get the wrong idea. That is not,
No, guys, no.
although maybe someday they it should work.
Wait till they listen to our podcast.
So basically, seeking help is an investment.
Yeah.
It's an investment, not just in the relationship, but really it's investment in yourself if it's somebody who you want to
Yes.
bring along with you.
Right.
And getting help and seeking like that outside resource is definitely no admission of a failure.
No, not at all. All right. We got to go to this last brief conversation.
All right. So before we get to that action item, let's make space for something. I don't want anyone listening to feel like we skipped over the hardest part.
The grief.
And that grief of that relationship that doesn't make it, that friendship that fades, the connections that don't survive, the gap between who you were and who you're becoming.
The grief isn't real. And we've talked about grief on prior episodes, but it deserves to be acknowledged.
And you can know, like, completely and clearly that you are going in the right direction, that reinvention is necessary, and that the changes you're making are healthy and true and long overdue.
Right. And grieve the relationship that couldn't come with you.
And both things at the same time can happen, like without one canceling out the other.
Right. And I work with women who feel guilty about this grief. Like they're not allowed to be sad about losing a relationship if they changed, like it's their fault. And then they don't mourn it. They don't give themselves permission to mourn it.
And that's not how like healthy grief works, right?
Absolutely not how grief works. You have to allow yourself to grieve relationships that couldn't survive your growth, even if, and especially if the growth was the right thing for you.
And the grief definitely doesn't mean that you made the wrong choice in going along on your evolution.
It means you loved the person. It means the relationship mattered and they had a part in your life. You're human. All of that's allowed.
And we all have to make sure that we give ourselves permission to grieve that relationship that doesn't come along with us, or that person who doesn't come along with us.
Honor it, and then let it go through, feel it. Don't stuff it. Don't rush it. Don't let it talk you out of the growth that it caused.
Because that price you're paying might be compromising yourself. So the grief might be a price of becoming who you are. And that's a price that's worth paying.
Every single tear and every single dollar.
So it's action item time. We all know Melissa loves the action items. And I know I make fun of her with these action items, but they truly are helpful. I am just like, not really, I'm a make a to-do list person, not an action item with such passion like you. So let's talk about that.
We have to take action.
So your action item for episode 5. So let's talk about this one. And we want you to sit with this before you take your action, because it's going to bring things up.
Yeah. So why don't you start, Anne, with the first one?
Okay.
First thing you want them to do.
So first thing is take out a journal and map out your relationship ecosystem. Not everybody, just the people who are closest to you. And then next to each name, write honestly, How have they responded to the ways I've been changing?
Is it expansion, adjustment, resistance? Or maybe you haven't changed enough yet for them to have actually responded at all.
And just observe, no judgment, just kind of observe what's actually happening in each of these relationships.
Right. And then, second, ask yourself the question Anne raised today, which I love, is who in my life benefits from my smallness? You don't have to answer that today or when you're writing this down, but just be honest about it when you do write it down.
Because you can't change a dynamic that you haven't named or labeled.
Right. And third, identify one relationship in your life that you really want to intentionally bring with you along your reinvention journey and plan that conversation and how you want to have it. Not to fix anything and not to do it all in one conversation, just to name what's happening, to open a door for a discussion and to bring those people in.
Like what Melissa was saying earlier, I'm changing. I want us to change together. I need you to know that. Or even I want you to be part of my journey.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's the conversation. It does not have to be any more complicated than that.
And if you're sitting with the grief of a relationship that didn't make it or isn't making it, keep in mind that you're not alone in that. And it's okay to feel that grief and that sadness.
Yep. So come find us on Instagram at the.interruption. Tell us what's coming up for you. You can also email us at interrupt@midlifeiu.com. The community's here, really, for the real stuff, not just the inspiring parts.
All of it's welcome.
Yep, all of it.
All right, episode 5.
We went some real places again today.
We really did. And so we'll leave you with this.
Your evolution is not a betrayal of the people who you love.
It's an invitation for your relationship to become more honest,
more real,
and more worthy of everyone in those relationships.
The relationships that can rise to the invitation are the ones really worth keeping.
And the ones that can't, you release them with grace and you grieve them with honesty.
And the relationship that matters most, the one with yourself, tends every other relationship you have.
So keep doing the work.
Keep burning down what needs to go.
And keep becoming who you are and who you're meant to be.
Because those right people will find their way to the real you.
They always do.
Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other women find the conversation they need most.
And share this episode right now. If you think of one woman in your life who's in the middle of a relationship shift that she doesn't have the language for yet,
send it to her.
So next week, we're going to do a deeper dive into the relationship conversation. We're going to be talking about friendships specifically, the friendship audit, who deserves a seat at your second act table, and how do you know it's going to be a good one?
A really good one.
And until then, keep interrupting the narratives that hold you back.
Keep showing up as the truest version of you.
Even when, especially when, it disrupts the room.
Okay, see you next week.